Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Comics Della Morte, episode 62, Legendary Monsters. And I am your host, Crimson Owl Comics, Ronnie Gunter. Jason Frogbreaker Studios couldn't make it today, but we got our returning guest, as always, and pretty much a substitute co-host on the side,
There
Gary
we go.
Hodges.
I like to think of myself as an honorary third member of Crimson Owls.
Right?
There we go. I'm like the Billy Preston of Crimson Owls. I can
Yeah.
step in whenever.
But. Yeah. You need your golden jacket because
I
you've been on. You've been on more than some people been on Saturday Night Live.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Well, I'm always happy to pop on. So
yeah,
and I love the topic for tonight.
So. Oh yeah, there's a lot to talk about this topic. But in the chats, we got Frank. Thank you for showing up.
Frank
and
good.
Chase, Comics Della Morte, and our casters both on the same day. It's a double jackpot.
It's just it's a glut of.
Thank you for saying that you guys look forward to our show just as much as our casters because that's
yeah.
But yeah, when I wanted to come up with a topic because I've been so busy to find a new book to read for this week, I was like, hey, let's talk about legendary creatures because there's so many creatures in the world, and not even just that, but you have like Bigfoot alone. Bigfoot down in Florida is known as
isn't it like the skunk ape or the stink
yeah,
ape?
Skunk ape. Yeah, it's the skunk ape. And in in Missouri, he's known as the Momo, like MOMO. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So they got their own. So yeah, it's just a great topic to talk about.
Yeah, here in Arizona, up on the Mogollon Rim, we have the Mogollon monster, which is good. When you read about it, it sounds very Bigfooty. But
yeah, gotcha. So do you have you said, I know you said you had a story to talk about. You want to talk about that first?
I do have well, okay. So I'm, for people who don't know, I live in Phoenix, Arizona, so the American Southwest. So you have a different variety of.
Buy his books, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, sold out right now, but
really? That's good.
Stay tuned because reorder is coming soon. In the meantime, yeah, follow there. Go to my YouTube, go to my Instagram, whatever, and you'll hear as soon as a reprint is available. But so down here, it's like Skinwalkers and Mogollon Monster and
we'll talk about Skinwalkers.
Yes, because but the only one I have. And this isn't a direct experience, but a secondhand experience with is the chupacabra, the so-called the goat sucker. Yeah. This was so in college, I was an intern at the Maricopa County Medical Examiner's Office, which is basically like the county morgue. And I was when I was in college, I thought I wanted to be a forensic anthropologist. So I was an intern for the forensic anthropologist there. And one of the things I did that summer was anytime they would find human remains out in the desert, like bones, they would call us out to go and try to find all the rest of them. So like you would go, you'd search the area and try to like get as many of them together as you could, ultimately to try and identify who this person was. So I spent about a week out on the Gila River Reservation, Indian Reservation, looking for the rest of a skeleton. And while we were out there, if you've never been on a Native American reservation, it's like a third world country. The poverty is pretty shocking, and it's just little houses on the desert. A lot of them don't have plumbing. It's very, very low, close to the ground living, so to speak. Anyway, we were going around to these different houses to ask people if they had heard anything, if they had seen anything. And we were at this one house. There was a little old woman that lived there. And she said, you know what? I did hear something one night. Out back behind my house, there's some garbage cans. And I heard something messing with the garbage cans. And I assumed it was maybe coyotes or stray dogs or something like that. So I got my flashlight and I went out there to see what was messing with the garbage cans. And I turned on the flashlight, and with a straight face, she's telling the story, totally matter of fact. And there was a 6-foot tall chupacabra that looked just like a goat standing on its hind legs. It had horns and glowing red eyes, and it saw me and snarled at me and turned and walked into the darkness. And I ran back inside. And we're all sitting there listening to this, kind of going like, wow, you know, like that is crazy. And finally we leave the house. It's like myself, the forensic anthropologist, the PhD I am interning for, and a tribal police officer. And my supervisor, the PhD, said, well, I guess we should go look at the garbage cans. And I thought she was joking. I was like, why? Like, to see if we could see the chupacabra. She's like, no, but she heard something. She heard something out there. And what was interesting to me is the tribal PD officer, the Native American officer, wanted nothing to do with it. He totally believed her, 100%. Didn't want to go anywhere. He was like, nope, you guys can go look. I'm not looking. Like, I don't want anything to do with that. And you could tell he was a little shook by this story. Yeah. So that was the closest I came to any kind of a real life chupacabra alleged sighting. But,
gotcha. Yeah. Chase was like, we're squashy. This would be great to have him in.
He should be here.
Right. I got to get him on the show sometime. I just know he's super busy. So
yeah, he's always got stuff going on, but I bet he would come on if you give him enough warning.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, pretty much with like the like Bigfoot stuff like that, I've never like had an eyewitness of that stuff. Yeah. More of like any of the stuff that I experience is more like supernatural, like with the whole black shadows and seeing ghosts and stuff. I've experienced that. People in my family has experienced that. But it's just fascinating with the legendary monsters because, like I said, with like Bigfoot in Florida, Bigfoot in all around the world, especially going with the Native Americans, they have literally artwork on the walls that depict these things. And it's just fascinating because it's one of those things that's like, even with dragons, there's like different artifacts or like historical artifacts to indicate that all around the world people have seen like this Bigfoot or whatever creature it is. They just have a different name for it. So so it's fascinating.
Bigfoot has always been one. I've always loved this stuff, and Bigfoot especially I've always just found super fascinating. I don't know if I'm a believer or not, but I have a few books on the subject back there. I have a documentary, like a big documentary on it. Like I really, that's to me maybe the most intriguing one. I think just because it's a romantic idea, the idea of some higher primate closer to humans still out there somewhere. Like that's a really exciting, like, I mean, something like a chupacabra, like it's a fun folk tale, but like, I don't know, if we found one someday, I'd be like, wow, that's wild. And like, it wouldn't like be that fascinating to me, but like if someone found a Bigfoot someday, that would be crazy.
Because cool. It's one of those things, like even outside of horror, because there's a lot of sci-fi movies out there based off of like the chupacabra and all these different like legendary creatures, but you literally could have like a whole list of like Bigfoot movies that will take you years to watch every single movie. And not just even with not even with horror, but us growing up as kids, you had Henry and the Hendersons.
Harry and the Hendersons.
I got that on DVD, but it's like,
which has, by the way, like one of the best creature makeup suit effects ever.
Right?
Like he looks really
when you really
good.
Look at it,
it totally holds up. Like he looks great in that movie. Another one that's also, this goes a little bit further back, but the older among us will remember this. There was a movie called Baby that was about, and I might be butchering the pronunciation, but it's an African folktale about Mokele Mbembe. And it's basically, when you read it, it's like a brontosaurus in the jungle. Like, there's parts of the Congo Basin where they say like, oh yeah, there's this animal that lives out in the jungle. It's very deep back there. And when you have like the people draw, like, well, what does it look like? It looks like a sauropod. It looks like a brontosaurus or something. And I have a couple books on that too. That's probably my second most, like, one I'm most interested in, this idea of like there could be some lost dinosaur somewhere, which kind of would segue to Loch Ness. Yeah, there we go. Baby Legend of the Lost. That's the one.
Right.
Not a great movie, but that's what it's based on. It's based on that. That folktale.
Chase was talking about he liked more like legendary monsters that are mischievous, like Leprechaun. Yeah, that stuff is good. It is.
Yeah,
and that's Leprechaun, just right.
Troll was pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean they're pretty good. Really corny, like really bad. I mean, it's not. It's. I should qualify. I wouldn't say it's good. It's entertaining. It's fun. You can see.
Yeah. And then besides Bigfoot, one of the most popular ones out there too, just because of the fact that we could have a dinosaur that's still alive, is Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
How many people want to go to Scotland? Not just to see the beautiful scenery, but it's like, hey, why doesn't anybody ever drain the,
drain
the river, drain the lake, and actually see if there is one in there? Because even if you don't want to say it is the whatever, I can't remember the name. You probably would know the actual name for the Loch Ness, the dinosaur that they say it is.
Well, supposedly maybe like a plesiosaur.
Yeah. But with that, even with mermaids, there's always some type of fact with fictions. Like they thought that, there was real mermaids, but what it was is just manatees, because the back of a manatee will look like a mermaid tail.
Yeah, it looks kind of like, right. Yeah. I saw something weird with kind of a face and a fin, and there were.
And with Loch Ness Monster, what's fascinating about that is like we still are exploring, the deep ocean and find, fish that we've never seen before, especially the farther you get down deeper to the ocean. You have like the angler fish with the sharp teeth and the glowing ball. And then there was like some type of like, I seen on the news a while back, it looked like a eel, but I think it was like a ancient shark species, and they said, oh, this was supposed to be dead like thousands of years ago, but they found it. And of course, when they took it out of water, it didn't last for long, but
it dies. But
it
there's
died.
Definitely stuff they've pulled out of the deep ocean that looks every bit like some sort of alien from a movie. Like just weird animals that you can't even really understand what you're looking at. So
I mean,
that would be
another perfect example, the giant octopus. That was just a myth. And that was just a myth until like what? How many decades ago?
Yeah, giant squids. Yeah, like that was something, and now they're finding things that look a lot like that. Well, not to mention, I don't remember when the year was, but someone could Google it, I'm sure, but gorillas were only confirmed as as existing in very recent history. Like there were all sorts of like rumors about these weird wild men and hairy, like animal, like men in the jungle. But I thought it's been in the last couple hundred years or something that they finally confirmed the existence of a gorilla. It's a relatively recent thing. But.
Yeah, it's just fascinating. And then, with like, they have like shown like the giant octopus, how its eyes as big as a dinner plate and stuff like that. Of course, it's not as big as people expected, but there's definitely pictures. I think the most biggest one they found was like 30 feet in length.
Still pretty big.
And weighed 600 pounds.
Yeah, not a small thing. And those are just the ones they're finding, I mean, because you figure something like that, the odds of, that's a deep sea creature. The odds of even finding it probably are astronomical. Because, if it's dying, it's probably dying on the bottom of the ocean and other things are eating it. And, like you're not, so like just the fact that you caught one, that's certainly not the biggest one out there.
Oh yeah,
so
for
it's
sure.
just the one you happen to catch.
Yeah. And like you were saying with gorillas and stuff like that. I mean, we have all this like rainforest and all these other like forests out there, and there's not even with animals, but like they're finding flowers and other stuff out there that they never found in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just fascinating.
Well, and as we've all found in the last few years, diseases
Yeah.
that we
Yeah. Pretty much.
didn't know were out there. Yeah.
Hmm.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you could throw them in this too, but one of the biggest legendary creatures also that I could think of, just because it has a history of being around things when things are destroyed, and that's the Mothman.
Mothman is, Mothman has such a cool factor
Hmm.
just for his look. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, that is a
exactly.
very enviable creature design.
Hmm.
That's like somebody, if someone had cooked that up for a movie or a comic, they should deserve to be getting money because that's like such a good, it just looks so cool. The
Yeah,
silhouette is
yeah.
perfect.
And I can't remember what bridges was, and I don't even know if it was
I don't remember the
like
name of the bridge.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like they literally someone had a videotape where like that bridge was destroyed, but before it was destroyed, they actually saw like a giant moth-like creature flying away
Right.
from it.
That
You
was the
know?
beginning of the Mothman thing, right? There were
Yeah.
like a
Hmm.
series of sightings in the proximity of whatever that bridge was. And
Yeah.
then, like,
Hmm.
after a few days or weeks, that bridge catastrophically collapsed. And so then, yeah, the legend was born. Mothman is like this harbinger of doom and disaster. And it just, again, like, I wanted that movie to be so much better. Did you see the movie with like
Yeah.
Richard Gere?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Mothman
Oh yeah.
Prophecies or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, it was fine. It just wasn't what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be way cooler. But
Yeah.
yeah, deep sea creatures are
Oh yeah, for sure.
something else.
Hmm. But yeah, I just find that fascinating because it's like usually, especially like in cultures like Native American culture or tribes like that, usually besides these creatures being like a protector,
Mhm.
something to fear, usually in cultures like that, if you see this type of creature, it usually means that something bad is going to happen.
Right, right. It's a bad omen. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I just like to read about like the history and the story that goes behind these creatures in different people's culture, because it's more like almost like a spiritual aspect to it instead of just a horror perspective. Like you actually get to see how these people actually like believe in this thing and look up to it, and like it's a part of their culture and their life, and it's not
yeah.
something that they're afraid of unless they're told to be afraid of it.
Right, right. Well, it really does be. It figures. It almost becomes like it has. I mean, religious might be a strong word, but at least mythic significance.
Yeah.
There's
Hmm.
something
Mystical.
meaningful about,
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
role the story, what the there's embedded meaning in the stories, and there's relevant cultural relevance to this
Hmm.
creature. But
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's like with Native Americans with owls. They represent like a creature of wisdom or a creature of death. So if
right,
you see an owl, someone's gonna die, and
right.
that just leads into another like Irish. I think it's Irish or Scottish banshees.
Banshees,
If you
yeah,
if you see a banshee, or well, if you hear a banshee, that indicates that you're going to, or someone else is going to die.
yeah, yeah. Which is similar. Now that I think of it, that's another Southwest one is
Hmm.
La Llorona.
Yeah, a
Llorona.
lot of
It's like
Rona.
a double
They
L.
just made a movie about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like
Hmm.
if I remember right, at least one version of the myth is some woman wants to be with a guy, and he doesn't want her with her kids or something, so she drowns
Hmm.
them in a lake or river or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he still doesn't want her or whatever, and so she commits suicide. And then you hear this ghost out in the desert, this woman like crying over her dead kids, like, and so you'll see drawings of like a ghost woman with 2 ghost babies, that kind of thing. There's different versions of how, but it's always about drowning, and her 2 kids have drowned either by her own hand or maybe not. And now they're all dead, and they're these 3 ghosts, and I think it's told as, at least maybe south of the border, as kind of a boogeyman tale for bad kids, where it's like, La Llorona is going to come get you if you don't settle down. This kind of thing, like she's going to come.
Boogeyman.
Yeah. But now that you mention it, banshees, like it's similar, like sort of the same family kind of things, but made up your own version. What was your version, Frank?
Right. No, but that's fascinating too. I mean, you probably have to look around with each state, but each state has like their own, like, ghost story of, the woman in the white dress or the person in the red dress. And you don't go to this abandoned like graveyard or go down this old like train tunnel that's like off limits and no trains run through there anymore.
Right. Well, that's the I think the joy. Frank would probably agree. One of the joys of living in the American Southwest is you get like a heavy kind of Hispanic or Latin or whatever you want to call it, like influence in the local folklore. So like there's things like La Llorona and chupacabras and like all these kind of strange, things that are they're kind of a borrowed or absorbed from either native peoples or like Latin culture or whatever. The Jonah and the Whale.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, Chase.
Yeah.
And
it being sort of a transformative experience. Like that's.
And let's see. Well, you talked about it, and before we go into the next one, I had to bring it up. If no one has read it yet, go to Tapas to read my 3rd episode, The Great Escape. It is very action-packed. It has gore. It has shock value. But why I have to mention it, because it has a husband and wife who are Native Americans, because, Native Americans are very important to me. My mother, she's part Native American. If you saw a picture, you're like, okay, I could kind of see it. If you're seeing her sister, you would definitely notice. But so Native American culture has always been important to me, and those people have been important to me. So that's why in my comic, I had the husband and wife who are skinwalkers. One turns into a cougar / mountain lion, whatever you want to call it, and an owl. And I just find that fascinating that, with the Native Americans, that they believe that if you endouse yourself, or however to say it, that you could become that creature. Like they have totems that are dedicated to that animal. And like how many people go on Facebook saying, take this quiz to find out what your spirit animal is.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, right. Yeah,
but in some culture, it was known as if you were a skinwalker, then you were an evil witch that was trying to lure people and kill them. But then later on, it became more of like anyone could become a skinwalker, even a good person.
Yeah, and I can't tell if it varies by time or by tribe, but there is that diversity. Like some skinwalkers are like the scariest, awful thing, that you could ever come across, and cannibals, and like just that. But then in others, it's more of a kind of just like a, not necessarily good or evil, but just a shapeshifter. It's
That's
always Frank always just
And now, like, I got to go back to it, because since we are, besides horror, we are a comic book channel as well.
Yes.
Where is it? Besides the Chupacabra, The Jersey
Jersey
Devil.
Devil.
They made
I
that
did want
into a
to add
comic book,
something.
the
And
Jersey Devil comic.
Frank, you can tell me if like you've heard anything similar or different, but I had the same thought. I was like, that doesn't sound like. So in the story, the native woman, she again described the chupacabra as about 6 feet tall and it looked like a goat standing on its hind legs with glowing red eyes, which doesn't sound like any chupacabra I've ever heard of.
No, it's more like
Chupacabras,
a dog
typically
or a
are,
wolf.
yeah, like small, like wolf-like, or like small, like if you play Dungeons and Dragons like I did, like koboldish, like just strange little, like snarling, you know, like little things, goat suckers. And I had asked one of the other tribal PD officers that I was friendlier with, like, you know, like that's not what I've heard is that typical out here. And he said that's when he grew up on the res. That's always what chupacabras were. And he suspects that there might be like a strange kind of a version of it in the Southwest that's influenced by like a weird demonic or satanic Catholicism thing from Mexico. Like, you know, where they're a little more of a demonic thing rather than a small snarling wolf-like thing. So I don't know. That was he was like, I don't know, but all I know is that I had always heard the same thing. The chupacabras kind of were like goats walking on their hind legs.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, but yeah, I agree with you, Frank. It didn't sound what I remember. It sounded like a Jersey Devil, but then out here we don't know what a Jersey Devil is. So.
Oh yeah, even though you know you have the comic book out there.
Yeah.
I read the comic book quite a bit, not too much to know everything, but I liked it. But what is it? Now, do you have it? Let me see.
Dwarves and Hawaiian folklore. Interesting.
Yeah, right.
Tanuki raccoons. That's fun. That's a really fun idea. I would read that. That sounds awesome. Right.
Do you have anything like another one that pops to your head? Because I have a whole list.
Oh gosh, no. Go. Let me think. I'm kind of looking at my collection here too, because sometimes, like I said, I have little books scattered here and there. Boy, I don't know. Go. You hit me with one while I think.
All right. One that we could talk about because they look different depending on what part of the hemisphere you're part of. Dragons.
Oh, sure. Okay, there we go. Yeah.
I mean, you got like the Chinese dragon that just like has no wings, but then you have like the Western Hemisphere and the one in London, European, where it's like this dragon with wings and breathes fire. But it's just fascinating because it's just one of those things. Like I go back to it, like with Bigfoot, you have some type of, you know, version or some type of story that's around a dragon. Even with the Bible, the devil's depicted as a dragon in some places.
Yeah. And what's interesting is how different, like if you talk about the Eastern and Western dragons, because the Eastern, like superficially similar, but the Eastern dragon, if I remember right, if I understand it right, is not kind of a monster, like a terror, like a Western dragon. The Eastern dragon is sort of like a spirit creature. It has
protector.
It's kind of like a nature animal. It's like it's just where like the Western dragon, I think the most, it was sort of, I've always remembered this quote from Joseph Campbell. He was talking about Western dragons, and he was saying, they spend their whole lives collecting virgins and gold, of which they have use for neither. Like they can't really do anything with any of that. Like they're not buying anything and they're not having sex with virgins, but they just want those. They're like, they kind of represent greed and like gluttony in a way, you know, just like just hoarding things. I remember thinking that, you know, Jabba the Hutt is sort of a sci-fi interpretation of a dragon, you know, like this kind of this big corpulent thing that's just like rich and surrounds itself by women and for no particular purpose, just to be awful, you know. So that's it. it's kind of interesting how they seem the same, but they're very different.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because like you were saying, usually dragons in the Eastern Hemisphere are always about like being a protector over people
Yeah.
and stuff like that,
Yeah.
or it's a sign of fortune and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But
It's all very auspicious, but
but let's see. Trying to think of another one that would be
I
really
have
good.
well, you think, I know I have a book here.
Oh, I got another one.
Before we started. Let me see here. I think I have a cryptozoology A to Z.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah, I know I do. I just got to look at it. I have not organized my books since the move yet, but
But I mean, with all those creatures, you could easily make a comic off of one of them.
oh, 100%.
Not even just like a one spin-off. You could probably make a whole series if you really deep go into like the culture and the history of all that stuff.
Here's one I want to share for people, for the readers at home. Drums Along the Congo is let's get without the shine, is a great book about Mokele Mbembe, the so-called the dinosaur of the Congo. It's a very good, it was about the research into it and this guy who did an expedition out there and everything. It's by Rory Nugent.
Yeah.
Nugent. For like I said, people who are interested in buying some books. But let's see here. Aha! I knew it. I knew it.
Oh, that's cool.
And let's see here. Yeah, there we go. Frank's on top of it. So let's skim and see if there's any that jog our memory here.
Like I know one that popped in my head for the fact is that the culture around it, and not just that, but it's a big Marvel character, and I wish they would like Marvel would be like, oh, we're gonna make a horror movie based off of this character from like the X-Men comics, the Wendigo.
Yes.
I love the Wendigo is such a great character.
That's
in the
another
Marvel
good one.
comics.
Yes.
And the creature was always terrifying. You had this giant, like furry white creature, but around that culture is very interesting. That if you're a regular person and you have the taste of human meat, then you'll start all of a sudden turn into this creature and become the Wendigo.
Yes. This was another one. This reminded me, this is back sort of on a Bigfoot thing, but if people are familiar, if you want to go down a Google rabbit hole, Google the Minnesota Iceman, which there's some pictures here. Okay, so you see like there's this guy, behind him are two drawings. The drawing on the right, the story was, there was I think it was a carnival in Minnesota. I'm skimming here, where they had, I think just in a big, like one of those like freezers you put in your garage if you're a hunter or something, they had Ape Man. Suppose this is the story. I'm relating the story. I'm not saying whether it's true or false, but this is the story. They had this sideshow thing where you go in and they had, and this reminds me of another story to tell you after this. This big block of ice, and in it was the so-called Minnesota Iceman. This is the drawing of what he looked like. It was an ape man with one hand up, one hand down, who had appeared, had been shot through the eye with a rifle. And the guy's story was that someone had seen this thing out in the woods and shot it, and they brought it back and they froze it, and they were selling tickets for people to take a look at it. And it started creating a little bit of a buzz. And my recollection, someone will be able to check this. If you go, I just remember like it was the most fascinating Google rabbit hole to go down, like if you just see, like read up on it. But it started getting a bunch of attention and people wanted to go out and see like what the hell this thing really was. Like people were seeing it like, what is that? And they wanted to come back. They wanted to talk to this guy about it. They're like, can we thaw it out? Can we get a sample? And I think it ended up getting like lost. or like, you know, kind of like snuck away or something like that, where nobody knows really what it was, but it was sort of fascinating for a little while. I encourage you to Google that one. But it reminds me of here in Arizona, another local thing. There's a little tiny fly speck of a town in the southwest part of the state, and I think it's called Dragoon, Dragoon. And in it, there's a kind of a roadside curiosity museum that has all sorts of weird things. Like I think they have like Goebbels's car, and they've got like, they just have like weird random things in this little museum out in the desert. And for decades and decades, you would see billboards all over Arizona that would say, "Have you seen the thing?" And "thing" was written in like creepy letters. And it's like, if not, go to Dragoon, Arizona, and like wherever this museum was. The museum's still out there.
Gotcha.
And everyone's like, and the local thing, and I'm going to spoil the thing here tonight. But if you're an Arizona native, when people will ask you like, what is the thing out in Dragoon? And you're supposed to say, oh, just got to go see it. I can't tell you. I'm not allowed to tell you what the thing is. You have to go see the thing. And you drive all the way out to the middle of the desert, this stupid little museum, and you would see the thing. Now, when you go and see it, my understanding is that the thing is one of these like fake mermaids where they sewed like a dead monkey to a dead fish.
Okay,
and,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, like one of these like Fiji mermaids, I think they call them, like one of those.
Yeah.
That's what I think that's what it is today, but that's not always what it was. I think what it used to be was, if I remember right, a Native American mummy from Central America or something like that, that someone had found somewhere and snuck up here and they had this whole story about how it would like get up at night and this whole thing. I know it's like not really like cryptozoology, but it's like this weird local folklore thing. Someone's gonna, oh wait, what is Frank saying here? It's a cool movie about a legendary sea monster. Is it something else? No, so it's just, yeah. But anyway, the thing. You see the thing in Dragoon, Arizona. I don't know what it is now, but it used to be a mummy, apparently.
Yeah, and like you were saying with the mermaid, with that, you know, like the whole manatee I was talking about. But even with the mermaid, you have like mermaids, but then you have sirens. Like the sirens you don't want to go with, because if you're out on the water, you're a sailor or you're just sailing the boat and you hear a siren screaming, don't go towards her.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, do we count aliens in modern folklore?
I don't know. We probably could, but like,
I don't know. I mean, that's sort of the role they occupy now.
Yeah.
You know, aliens are sort of the goblins of the 21st century. You know?
Yeah, for sure. But before I go on and think of something else, do you have anything that you want to say about the Wendigo?
The Wendigo? No, I think you got it perfectly. I remember how much I loved that comic.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It would be cool to see them do that. That basically was like, is that like, it's a version of Sasquatch, right? Like, I don't know about in the comic, but I mean in the real folklore.
I think so. But it's pretty much like I said, it's a person that has the taste of human flesh and they turn into it. Yeah.
You know, every time I see the video shared, I just sit and watch it because it's so fascinating. But the Tasmanian wolf, remember, like there was,
oh yeah,
that's one. So you see it gets shared a lot, that old black and white footage of the last Tasmanian wolf in captivity. Is the most unusual looking animal. Like, it looks a little bit like a maybe like a coyote or something. It's got stripes, a really long, like pointed triangle shaped face. It looks just very strange. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's something that today has become a little bit of a folklore animal because there's sightings of it all the time. Now it might still be out there. It might be one of those things that's not really extinct, but the story is that there's just sightings all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
What was the one they made a cheesy French kung fu / horror movie about?
There's so many of those.
I know. Yeah. Like Frank, maybe Frank can help us out with the Google. I think the movie is Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And the monster, it's a movie about a period movie about an actual thing where it was, I forgot when this was. I think it was like in the 1700s or 1800s. It's probably 1700s. There was some sort of enormous wolf-like animal that was terrorizing a little village and killing people like crazy. And the descriptions of it don't sound like a wolf at all. That's what was sort of interesting about it. It was much bigger. Supposedly had a long tail, to the point where they even speculate like maybe it was like somehow a lion got up there or something. Like they couldn't figure out what it was. But I'm trying to I'm going to Google it right now. It's another thing, again, if you want to go a rabbit hole for folklore monsters. Though this was another thing that it absolutely happened. Like this was a thing that happened, but what it was is kind of open to speculation, because of course this invites like a lot of people are like it was some kind of werewolf or it was some kind of demon monster or something. But like, hold on. So Brotherhood of the Wolf was the movie, which is kind of a fun movie, by the way. But it's really over the top and crazy. Okay, Brotherhood of the Wolf. And
yeah, Frank was looking it up. He said, but yeah, like you were saying with werewolves, like werewolves and vampires, before it became like a pop culture thing in America, like over in Ireland, werewolves and vampires, you know, yeah, they have some things similar, but it's like they've added on so much to what originally those stories were.
Yes. Okay, so this is the thing to Google. It's the beast of, I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Gavaudan, I'm assuming. I don't know if you can see this on my.
It's kind of blur.
There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh. Come on. There we go. Beast of Gavaudan.
Yeah.
But basically, let's see here. Attacks covered an area of about 90 by 60 kilometers. Said to be committed by one or more beasts with formidable teeth and immense tails. Many descriptions of the period identify the beast as maybe even a striped hyena. But look at this picture. I'm hoping this picture comes up. This is
that's what Frank was. That's what Frank was just saying. A hyena from a circus troupe. Oh wow!
Like it's hard to say what and eventually they found it and shot it, and eventually it rotted almost instantly, and like they just dumped it. But 500 deaths, 610 attacks, 500 deaths, 49 injuries. 98 of the victims killed were partly eaten. I mean, it's just this crazy thing. This was like a historical event, but they don't know what it was in retrospect. Like it was just this strange animal that was just, every day was a buffet on these people that were nearby, and they didn't know what to do with it. Oh, the water horse. I forgot that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, from my knowledge of like, sci-fi, cheesy 80, 90 horror movies, there wasn't really a lot of horror movies based off of the Loch Ness Monster. Now, today, it's like you have sharktopus, half shark, half octopus creature,
Right.
or
Yeah,
you
I
got
think it,
ghost shark.
yeah, I think the problem with Loch Ness, and as terms of movies go, is it's not a very scary, like dynamic. Like it's always like you're seeing like a neck and a head at a
Yeah.
distance,
Hmm.
and there's never a story about an attack or anything like that. So it's
Yeah,
just
for
not,
sure.
you can't do as much with that like you can with Bigfoot. Or there are some scary, like if you want to Google in search of the old TV series
Hmm.
and Bigfoot,
Yeah,
it's
that's actually a
kind
good
of
series.
such a good series. Like you can get there, and they'll have whole episodes like online, like on
Hmm.
YouTube, because it's about, it's like 40, 50 years old. So good. But Bigfoot is a little bit like gray aliens,
Yeah.
where now we kind of think of them as like, oh, they're sort of cute or sort of interesting, or close encounters
Hmm.
of the third kind. In the 70s, like Bigfoot stories were scary as hell. Like they
Oh,
were
yeah, I bet.
really, really alarming. Like stories about like them screaming, like having the worst scream and throwing rocks at people's cabins, and
Hmm.
like peeking in wind. Like they seemed very dangerous and terrifying. And so
Yeah.
yeah, if you watch some of those accounts on In Search Of, like late at night, it's good, like creepy nighttime horror watching.
Hmm. Wow.
Mr. McGorm's Wonder Emporium. Wow.
I mean, we did have Andre the Giant dressed up like Bigfoot versus the $1 Million Man.
That's right. $6 million Man. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was like a
versus
robo
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not
But
as good
yeah.
a costume
Mhm.
as Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah. But that's what I find that, of course you could find a lot of them on YouTube now, not just like paranormal investigators, but like people who are hunting these creatures, and they'll get like videos. It's like, okay, I don't know if that's really them just in a costume,
Yeah.
but it's like you find some stuff that's like really interesting.
You can find interesting stuff. And
Hmm.
like I said, I've gone down the whole Bigfoot thing, and I have
Yeah.
a few books on the subject, and not just collections of accounts, but like people trying to like really
Hmm.
investigate this, and a really good documentary on the subject. And I do, if I had to bet real money, like real,
Hmm.
like first of all, if I had real money, which I don't, but if I had real money and I had to bet, does Bigfoot really exist? I'd probably bet no, but I would think about it. Like some of these, some of it, some
Yeah.
of it's sort of interesting and sort of
Hmm.
compelling. He's the only one of all these like folklore creatures that like makes me go, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I mean, it's maybe I I definitely can accept the possibility that um, some kind of near human species might have lived longer than we realize.
Yeah, because I
Like
mean, what is it with the human names? You have the cavemen, or the
Neanderthals or something, or
yeah, yeah, you have them, and then you have the other one.
Cro-Magnon, or Homo habilis, or Homo erectus,
I
or
can't remember, but it's like, you had, as scientists would say, you have us now. We
yeah,
came from this type of cavemen, but they were
yeah,
living with, but there was this type of cavemen that were around,
yeah.
and this type of cavemen died out. But who's to,
Neanderthals were,
yeah,
yeah, we kind of
yeah,
coexisted most recently. Most
hmm,
recently,
yeah.
that's, I think, the most
But who's to
fascinating
say
thing
those
about,
aren't that's Bigfoot's not related to that type of
right, or
caveman?
something, well, or something similar, right?
Hmm.
Because that was the most fascinating thing. I mean, it's hard for us to wrap our brains around now, but it's
Yeah.
only relatively recently in human history, like in a geological sense, that
Hmm.
we're not sharing the planet with other types of humans. You
Mhm.
know, like not humans, not Homo sapiens, like other type, like because we were sharing the earth with Neanderthals, like whatever, you know,
Yeah.
500,000 years ago or something like that, you know, and before that, there were lots of competing types of hominids on the planet. Like that's hard to even imagine now.
Mhm.
This idea, you know, there could be like whole cultures out there that are not human. They're intelligent, they have tools, they're talking, you know, like I mean they're very similar, but they're
Yeah, I
not
mean,
the same.
that just goes into it. Ah, man, I wish I knew the name of this. But that one island that's like, I think it's across from Jamaica that you're not able to go to because they're one of the last remaining like tribal people who are
Like
untouched from the rest of the
uncontacted. Yeah, in
world.
the
And
Amazon
if
there's
you
a
get there
few.
close enough,
Yeah,
they'll kill you.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like so one of the last, so there's only a handful of like uncontacted tribes left. But no, it's just
Mhm. Yeah.
it's a romantic, fun, exciting idea that they could still be, there could still be
Mhm.
something like that out there. And like I said, with like having gone down that, like researched that and read a bunch on it, um, I wouldn't bet that there's a Bigfoot out there, but there's some
Yeah.
pretty interesting stuff where you kind of are like, maybe, you know, I don't know, but maybe. Um,
Chase Chase brought up a good thing to talk about just because then it could go into a movie that was a really good movie and scare the crap out of me as a kid.
yeah.
With zombies, we know them as like these creatures that will eat you and they're dead, but it first started off as, Jamaican, uh
Haitian folklore.
no, yeah, Haitian folklore
Yeah,
with
yeah,
voodoo, where to
yeah,
be a zombie, you weren't like a flesh eater, you would have been like a mindless, servant, slave,
yeah. Yeah, they would,
you know?
and there's a great book on it. It's kind of academic, but it's about real. I mean, this sounds weird. People like they're like, "What are you talking about?" Basically, about real zombies. But if you want to,
Mhm.
Serpent and the Rainbow, not the movie. The movie is like a horror movie
Is
based
that
on
the
this book.
is that, the one I'm thinking of, where the guy who played Lone Star from Spaceballs? I can't remember. I
Yes,
could
Bill Pullman, I think. Or no, is that
Yes,
who it was?
I don't know,
I
but
think that's
that's
the actor's name. I don't remember.
mhm,
But yeah, and but that's based on a book, a real book, Serpent and the Rainbow by Wade Davis, who is
mhm,
an ethnobotanist, I think. Which is basically an anthropologist that studies humans' relationships with like plants. And he was most interested in basically like the zombie drug
yeah, it's
in
Bull
Haiti.
Pearlman,
I think it was
mhm,
like Datura or something. I'm trying to remember what it was, a compound, but the gist of it was that the voodoo people down there would make this concoction that if you ingested it, it would put you in like a near death state. And they would go through this whole weird, it's terrifying when you think of it. They'd go through this whole weird death ritual where they would take you after you'd been poisoned or taken this and you seem
it is
dead.
Bill Pearlman,
Yeah, there we go. And bury you.
mhm,
And then you would wait, you would finally come out of it, but totally out of it because of the weird psychotropic effects of this drug. And so
yeah,
what would you do? You would stumble out of the grave and you would stumble around and you would kind of seem like a zombie. You'd be like, you know, and you
mhm,
would be totally drugged out of your mind. It's like kind of, and it was, oh, what is this? Yeah, and this is a
mhm,
real feature of like Haitian voodoo.
yeah,
There's a whole book on it. It's all 100% true. It's of course what's not true is like they die and it's a reanimated corpse and they eat brains. But it's
mhm.
very, in a way, I think the true story is far more terrifying than like the
Look
real
who it
zombie.
is.
Squatchy, always working, man. I was working today. I did so much work today, you wouldn't believe it. And
Squashy, and we were
furthermore,
just talking about you. Out
yeah,
of
we
all the
were. Where
legendary
have you been?
creatures, Bigfoot was the biggest topic.
Yeah, come on.
Talking about how
We
you
needed
fought the $1 million
some
man.
suggestions of Bigfoot movies.
There's a lot of them.
But yeah, that's another one I have in my collection somewhere is Serpent and the Rainbow. Read that book. It's a true story and it's terrifying and
I
creepy
will.
and weird.
All I remember is the movie as a kid, and that scared the shit out of me.
The movie is scary, but that definitely plays up the like
Oh yeah, the
supernatural
hype.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like a straight making of the nonfiction science book. And Wade Davis, I mean, he made his name on this. Like he's a PhD. He's a real and it put him on the map writing about the Haitian zombie thing.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. What about another one? Trying to think of another legendary creature that made a really big impact.
Exists is the #1 best Squatch movie. I don't think I've seen Exists. I'm going to write this down.
Oh yeah, for sure. Romero did a great job.
Yeah. Yeah, Romero is 100% responsible for our whole modern conception of zombies, you know. And that first one,
like the creation
really
of a hamburger,
fun to revisit. Like Night of the Living Dead, the original black and white version.
Oh yes,
is really interesting, and really, especially now when you see how far it's gone down this path. Like to see the first of the modern zombie conception. It's really good. It's really good. And what I like about it the most, there's a lot of things I like about it, but what I like about it, I think the most, is the kind of thoughtful, realistic interpretation of what a zombie would be like. He had the notion that most zombies would be people who died in a hospital. So a lot of the zombies are just people in hospital gowns and stuff. And I thought that was
suits when they're buried.
Yeah, or suits where they're buried. Like you can tell they're not like, it's not like the modern version where like you get bitten and 30 minutes later you're up and around. Like it's like you died and they were doing things with you, like either getting ready to bury you or getting ready to put you in the morgue or whatever they were doing. And that's when you woke up. So you're in that state. And I thought that it's kind of a neat little realistic touch that we've gotten away from now. But I think it's kind of cool when you watch that original one.
We're almost at the hour point. I knew this topic would last for that long, but one that popped in my head just for the fact is that a lot of people really believe in this, and that's lizard people.
Yeah. What a great one to close on.
Yeah.
Lizard people. I know.
Like it's like, oh, this person, you know, if you take a picture or look at a video of this person, this person has like black or white eyes that indicates that they're a lizard person.
Third eyelid close.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. They really, a lot of people really do. Yeah. They believe in the lizard people.
Yeah. That's like probably one of the biggest ones besides like, you know, Bigfoot, Loch Ness. Yeah. When you really like watch a lot of YouTube videos, based off of lizard people, there is a lot of stories.
That. Well, and I mean, if you want to talk about the modern example, like modern examples, you know, close #2 in terms of like current popularity is like the idea of, you know, blood drinking Illuminati, you know, like, I don't know, like politicians, like this kind of, you know, like strange, like, I mean, it's the same, it's kind of, that's sort of a weird vampire thing, but lizard people too. Yeah. I have a pet theory. I think the scariest thing to people, more than werewolves, more than vampires, more than lizard people, more than Hillary Clinton coming to drink your blood, is the idea that there's nothing really more to it. You know, I think there's something about that that's just the scariest thought of all, you know, and that's why, like, you want to believe that there's got to be like lizard people or something. It can't just be people being lame. Like this can't be it. Like there can't not be a chupacabra in the desert. Like otherwise, because if there's not a chupacabra in the desert, then there's just desert in the desert. And how boring is that? You know, I think that's where that's my pet theory. That's where it comes from. You know, it's like that life just has to be more interesting, more dramatic, more scary, and you know, what is this?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they do. Those names are kind of like it's an argument that it's all a simulation. Those are the names of the people running it. It sounds pretty fake. Sounds pretty made up. If you put that in a script, they'd kick it back to you. They'd say this sounds corny.
Right. Well, I think we're going to end it there. It was a good topic. Talked about a lot. Could definitely talk about so much more, like the Blair Witch.
And I like that we brought up first Blair Witch. That first Blair Witch movie is a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I mean they made more, but that first one really made a big impact.
Never topped that first one. Yeah, that
for sure.
Yeah.
But
thanks for letting me step in for
not
Jason.
a problem. Anytime. But I mean that'd be another topic to talk about. Like you could talk about like Blair Witch and like, I mean, I don't know when we could talk about it. We'll have to sit down, but like how at least one place in different states and all around the world has like some supernatural story to it.
Yeah.
Like the Suicide Woods, like people go off and stuff like that. Like it's you know, it's interesting how like every part of the world has like something that's supernatural and that's crazy and just far out. But it's like why there and why did it start there? You know?
Yeah. I'm curious, Chase. I don't know what Dr. Mabuse is. What is that? That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of lizard people, though, just to slip in a mention since we brought up lizard people, I still love that original 80s series V. Like V is just so much fun. And I know they did the remake, and it was all right. I didn't get into it, but that original one with Mark Singer
and Robert Englund with blonde curly hair.
Yeah, well, before he became Freddy Krueger. Yeah, so and their voice, they seemed like normal people. They had their red uniforms. Their voice sounded a little strange, but otherwise, and they wore sunglasses because like the sun was too bright for them here or something. But like they had this kind of rubber skin that you could tear, and they were like lizard people underneath. So good. So good. I'd be curious to know the history of the lizard person myth.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For that series, like, because I feel like that's where you started. Like lizard people, I think, owes a debt to V, which is a great old 80s sci-fi series.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Anyway. Well, before we leave, go subscribe to him.
Yeah, favorite the store.
Yeah.
Reprint coming soon. And I'm hard at work. Squatchy will be happy to know. Hard at work on the third installment of D versus M. So
gotcha. And then for people, you know, go check out Tapas. Like I said, on the third episode, 16 pages in, this is pretty much the part of the book where later on it's like, okay, now you have the story of this person. Now you're going to have a lot of action. You're going to start having an introduction with another person and a lot more action. So yeah.
And there's a certain fan of the show who makes a little cameo in the third installment. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's going to be another one in there too. If he's not of this one, he's definitely going to be part of the second book.
Pretty exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of cameos, pretty soon I'm going to need to enlist you. Like you'll be making a little cameo in the third installment of D versus M. And I'm going to need about four or five pictures of you. We'll figure it out. I haven't decided if we want to do like just on this and I'll screen cap, or I'll tell you what pictures I want. You can take them yourself or whatever, but we'll figure it out. But
that's like you on my good side. No.
I don't need any nudies. I don't need anything like that. Just very basic. I just need just your face this time. Just your face. But,
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Chase, Squashy, Frank, all showing up. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'll see y'all next week. Hopefully Jason can come back. But thank you, Gary, for always for jumping in when we need you. Appreciate it, buddy.
Anytime.
All right. Bye, everybody.